Hello. I'm super excited. Today we are talking about friendship, and there's lots of different aspects of this, but I want to give us some language around friendship and what it can be, and how sometimes we have expectations of other people that aren't communicated, and also cultivating some friendship with ourselves. So buckle in, grab your journal. We're going to dive in. If you want to do more of this, head to the tent, go through the activities, and then post your comments and your experience below that one. You can search it on the Menu Networks page or in the Facebook group. So Dunbar social brain is a really cool thing, because sometimes people think, oh, I should have more friends in X area, or like, oh, they're kind of like an acquaintance, but like they're not really a friend. Like, I'm not quite sure. But it's scientifically proven that our brains can only hold so much, right? So it goes 5, 15, 50, 150, 500, and 1500. And depending on how you grew up, or if you're an extrovert, introvert, how much you move, this can all impact the kind of people you have in your life and how close they are. You know, if you're involved in a lot of different activities, of course, you're going to have more people that fit different parts of your bill. So Dunbar social brain says that you can have about 5 close friends. So these are people that are really close to you, that know you, that you can pick up the phone and call at any point in time and just be like, hey, da-da-da, and they just get it. They know you. Then you have about 15 good friends. These are people that maybe you go out with on occasion, or maybe you work with, or you have some fun with, or that you can chat easily with and just hang out and have a good time. And that also see you, that you don't feel like you have to do something or be something. You can just kind of chill. Maybe you have a little bit of a guard up or a little bit of space. Like, they don't know all the skeletons in the closet, but like maybe you hid one, usually not actual skeletons, no murder. And then you have about 50 friends. So these are kind of like the people that you see once a month at an event, and you're like, oh, hey, like, it's so good to see you, we should get dinner together. And then you never do, right? But these can be people that you just enjoy spending time with. So about 50 people, and your definition of friendship might be different. So just, we're giving us some wiggle room and some words here. Yeah. And then 150 meaningful contacts. I really like this one, because sometimes there's somebody that's an acquaintance that I'm like, oh, hey, like, I know them. And then there's, I don't know you quite well enough to call you a friend yet, but I treasure the moments we have together. So sometimes people have come to tent once, or somebody that like I volunteer with, or things that it's like you have that bond, but you're not about to pick up the phone to call them when you have news, or to go out to dinner, or anything like that, that you're like, they're not the first 50 people you would call, but you enjoy being around them. So 150 meaningful contacts, and then 500 acquaintances. Hello, Facebook world. And then 1,500 people you can recognize. Doesn't mean you remember their names, because I struggle remembering people's names. Sometimes I'm like, this is my husband, Jer. Not that I have multiple husbands, but sometimes our brain just blanks. This doesn't mean anything. It's just your brain. She's kind of a hoarder, right? They're holding on to all of the things. So give yourself some grace if you forget names on occasion, because, okay, some people can remember 1,500 names, but not the average human. So just that you recognize that you're like, I know your face. We did something together at some point. Was it theater? Did we do a dinner? Did we used to date? Can't remember. Silly me. Just kidding. You probably remember the people you've dated. Okay. So you can try to make people fit something that they're not, but you also have to remember that they have their own list. They have their own kind of sorting of people. So you might have somebody in a different category that they don't feel like you are, or maybe they think that you're like a really close friend, but you're like, you're a meaningful contact to me. There might be some uncommunicated tension there that you might need to chat out. And sometimes that's a really awkward conversation to have, but then it's good to know, like, hey, do we actually want to build this friendship? And a lot of people think like, I just want it to be organic. I want our friendship to just like be organic. Well, organic farming takes a lot of intention and time, right? You plant the seed, you pull the weeds, you water it, you feed it, you get fertilizer. Same thing with friendships. Like, we have to, not hard work, but putting in that time and attention, reaching out, making the phone call. If you're in the car, hey Siri, hey Google, don't react. call XYZ, call, you got 10 minutes, you can chat real quick. If you're not a big phone person, you can send them like an article that reminds them of you, or you of them. But we can't keep up with the Facebook pressure of being best friends with everyone. And this is something I fall into, of like, everybody needs to know everything that's going on with me and all of my feelings so that like nobody's offended, or like nobody. And like, that's not sustainable, right? We have our close tribe, our close group, our close village for a reason, to help us. And we hope that everyone has sustainable social circles. And that's also part of what the Joy Guild is here for, is that we can also rely on each other if we don't have that in person, or we do have that in person, but it's also nice to have digital, because sometimes we need to chat about things that we don't want people in our personal life. We kind of need to get out of our personal life to connect. So just kind of something to think about. Hillary Rushford Collier is the leader, owner of Dean Street Society. She's a stylist and entrepreneur and mentor, and she's pretty fantastic, and I adore her. And she also has a podcast called You're Welcome, which is great, and I'd highly recommend listening to it. So she had podcasts on friendship as well, and she broke it up into 4 different categories: soul sister, sweet sister, social circle, and social sister, and sister. Yeah, sister friend. There we go. I was like, wait, I'm missing soul friend, sister friend, social friend. There we go. And sweet friend. Okay, so the sister friend is like, y'all are like this, right? I have my best friend who just knows me inside and out. So she's my sister friend. Then you have soul friends. Some of the people who have been tent keepers with me, like they are soul friends. Like we know each other, and this doesn't really have numbers on it. And sometimes best friends, you kind of, or like sister friends, soul friends, you come together for a season and then you come apart. Like they say, like sometimes you have friends for a reason, season, or a lifetime, and people can shift. Like these are fluid. They're not like boundaries. Remember in our boundaries conversation, the boundaries are fluid and they flex and they move. Same thing with friendship. Sometimes you guys are closer and sometimes it's a little further apart. And that's okay. We can give ourselves grace for that as we're navigating and learning, right? Because if we have these high expectations of others and ourselves, that's a lot. So plus it's pandemic as I'm recording this. So like we've all been through the ringer. So I'm grateful for the friends who have given me grace. Also, I've been writing books. So, and I'm grateful for the Joy Guild who has been giving me grace, right? So grace upon grace in friendships is just very helpful. It's easy to assume the worst, but it's very helpful to assume the best. And then have the conversations. Okay, so you have soul sister friends who see you, and then you have sweet friends that you're like, oh, maybe you get lunch together like once every couple months or once a month, or you're like, you message maybe once a week or something and kind of keep in contact, right? So those are sweet friends that you're just like, I adore you. You make my heart happy. Do you love them? Yeah, probably, possibly, but like, adore having them in your life, right? Because there's different levels of commitment too. Something I've been working through is the word best, because in elementary school, high school, it was like a hierarchy, right? Like, are you my best friend or are you my best friend? And like, I got shunted a couple times and I was like, oh, I thought I was your best friend. And so now I love the words like true friends or soul friends or sister friends, kind of these words. And like sometimes they'll say like, yes, besties. And I also have, you have different best friends or you have different soul friends. It's not pieces of a pie. There's not less of you to go around, although that is sort of true because of your energy and the time that you're investing in different friendships. But one friendship doesn't take away from the sacredness and goodness of another. Does that make sense? So like your energy kind of gets dispersed, but the goodness and validity of the friendships does not get dispersed. Okay, and then the last one she mentions is a social friend. So this is the one that you see like maybe on Joy Guild nights or once in a blue moon at a coffee shop when there's an event and you're like, hey, how's it going? And you catch up and you're like, have a good day, bye. And it's just like nice and social. So it kind of gives you these different aspects of looking at it because everybody's a friend on Facebook. But are they? do they really know you? Are they actually friends? Like, I wish there was kind of a way to like, not categorize, but be like, well, actually there is. There's an acquaintance kind of side that people don't see as many of your posts. That's a little extra work. You know, time for that. So I want us to think about that organic idea of friendship, of tending your friends and tending your friendship with yourself. A lot of times we are our harshest critics and we say things to ourselves that we would never say to a friend, not even a social friend. And if you wouldn't say it to a social friend, you obviously wouldn't say it to a soul friend or a sister friend or a close friend. Then why are we saying it to ourselves, right? And sometimes it's hard because our inner critic is on a loop. Like they get overloaded. And if you haven't done the inner critic, go back and watch the creativity video. I dive into it, all that jazz. There's also the red tent that you can check out that has more, goes through the whole activity as well. But when we're having those thoughts, if we can just get an inch of space, well, y'all, I know it's overwhelming, but like an inch of space, just even asking the question, like, would I say this to Kelsey? Would I say this to my partner? Would I say this to my child? Like, would I say this to anybody else? Oh, that's harsh. And sometimes writing it down, like if I'm having those angry thoughts or things or anxieties, just like climbing the walls, I grab my journal and I write, and it's like scribbles, it's in all caps. And like, then I finish writing, right? Get it all out on paper. Y'all know I'm a fan of this. Morning pages, free writing, your brain, let it go. Put it on the paper. Let your brain know that it can let go a little bit because it's on paper. You can look at it because on paper it's stagnant, right? When all our thoughts are doing this, it's connecting. Our brain is trying to make those connections, it's trying to understand, it's trying to sort. Your brain's just a computer being like, oh, hey, look, connections, friends, you know, and it's like trauma. And like somebody mentioned something at random, hey, and then you're like triggered, you know. But when we have these moments, we can put it down and then stagnant, it stays, and we can look and be like, oh, that's really harsh. And that's not always true, right? Everybody hates me. Everybody hates, there's gotta be one person that doesn't hate you, you know, and then maybe you can make a list or kind of like look through it. But when they're paper, then they're stagnant and then you can look, right? So I think becoming a good friend to ourselves also takes practice, because we're often told like cultivating a relationship with ourselves is the last thing we should be doing, right? Because then you're self-centered and you're selfish. Okay, that's a really good song that's going lately. It's on your selfishness playlist actually, and it's a good song. It's a country song and I've been listening to it on repeat. So another idea I want to give you about friendship with yourself is the idea of artist dates. I'm pointing to a book, but it's not on my shelf. It's on the other one. The Artist Way by Julie Cameron, which you have heard me say probably 1,000 times, is so great towards cultivating a relationship with yourself, because we're so tuned into what society wants, Facebook wants, our world, community, friends, parents, whatever, fill in the blank, right? That we often don't know what we actually want. And when we listen to what our nudge says and it's different than what other people say, like, hold on, Betsy, that's all bets are off at that point, right? And that can feel really scary. So artist dates are things that you do that would bring your inner child joy. Going to buy stickers just because you can at the store, or having a dance party for one, or watching a French movie with subtitles, like going for a picnic, going laying in the woods. All of these are artist dates of kind of tapping in and tuning back to you. I've been calling it kind of like out of phasing and getting in phase, getting in sync, sinking back into your body. Because a lot of times we're like this, out and about, and then we're like, oh, what do I want? I have no idea. Like I'm stretched so thin, all these people. So let's bring ourselves back together a bit, so that way we can cultivate our friendship with ourselves and understand, hey, what do I need here? What do I want here? And sometimes if you can't get a hold of a friend in a moment too, when we're panicking, not split yourself apart, but I like to think of it, you know, you can even rotate if you'd like and be like, oh my gosh, and just out loud, right? But here's all the stuff that's happening. Okay, friend, you know, me, AJ, friend, or panic AJ, friend AJ. Okay, what do you need right now? I'm just so frustrated. I can't even think straight. Okay. Do you need a nap? Do you need some food? Do you need a snack? Water sounds really good right now. You know, okay, like let's have a glass of water. Maybe let's go lay outside on the grass. That always makes me feel better. Yeah, that does sound good. Maybe I can play this game on my phone that I like, right? So like you can also kind of switch seats because we have these different facets of ourselves inside. Just like we have archetypes, our anxiety can take on our voice, our stress can take on our voice, our fear can take on our voice, right? So our inner voice can sometimes be really quiet, just like, hey, and so if we can take on a persona of, hey, friend, or kindness, or even channeling somebody else, right? Like what would AJ say? Like AJ would say, take care of yourself, please. That can also help start. And it feels silly, right? It feels ridiculous, but we're not taught these things. And if something wasn't sustainable all the way up here, then isn't it time that we try something different, try something new, even if it feels a little strange? And that way we can live into who we were created to be. And we can have that like centeredness within ourselves for when we go out. And that makes us better friends as well, when we can communicate like, hey, this actually really hurt my heart when you canceled last minute and like didn't follow up, or like nothing, or even asked how it went, or like, hey, I've reached out 5 times and you haven't responded. Like, are you okay? Do you still want to be my friend? Like, I had a situation a month ago where I reached out to somebody that I thought just, was going through stuff with the pandemic. And every time I reached out, like, it was fine. And like, she was like, I'm fine. I'm just doing it, whatever, doctor stuff. And then this last time I was like, hey, like, it's been a year since we've actually seen each other. Do you want to get lunch? And she's like, I'm no longer interested in our friendship. I wish you and Jer all the best. And I was like, I have no idea what happened, right? And I still don't to this day. And it breaks my heart. Maybe at some point I'll find out more or reach out again. But sometimes things happen in friendships and we don't get clear answers. So I also just want to validate that happens even when you're working on all of the stuff, right? Like I'm right here with you all and exploring all of these things and learning, because that's all any of us are doing, right? We're trying to do the best we can with what we've got. And we're going to make mistakes along the way, but the more we can kind of bridge the gap between making the mistake and then apologizing for it, or saying, hey, that was my bad, or I'm sorry, let me do that again, or thank you for understanding, like, okay, here's my plan of attack for in the future, that we can have better, calmer friendships. They don't have to be frantic, right? Sometimes I think back to my high school friendships, and it was a lot of like, if then that. It was very transactional. It was very like, I felt like I was constantly on edge. And in college, I like met friends that I was like, oh, I can breathe a little. Okay, this is cool. Like, I don't feel like I'm about to be abandoned or dropped, right? So sometimes we have to find friends that help us. So trust your gut. And also our body's protecting us. I think we did voice at some point. Should be a video about listening to your inner voice. It's in the book too. Pre-orders are open today. But remember that, yes, trust your gut, and your body is trying to protect you. So sometimes your instincts will flare up because it's like, oh, this is a new situation. Or like, hey, remember this other time you went to go meet with a new friend and then this happened and that happened. This is about to happen again. And you're like, no, that's not. But like, thank you for the heads up, right? So we can bring awareness into it when our body does things of like, hey, are you panicking because something's actually wrong? Or are you doing a replay and like warning me about something that might happen? So just tune into those moments when you're feeling your anxiety rise up, and then ask yourself like, okay, if I was in their shoes, would I want to know this thing? Would I want to have this conversation? Is there a way to chat this out? And throw it in the joy guild if you need help kind of prepping what you're going to say. Because sometimes it's just a miscommunication of not understanding each other or prioritizing or different things, and that can be a really hard conversation, but also a good one. I had a situation last year about faith that I thought I was going to lose a best friend, to be honest. And I was kind of at the moment of like, ball's in your court. Like, I'm sorry if I don't know. Like, and like, I had a role to play, and, and I admitted that as much. And I was like, I'm really sorry. Like, I didn't realize I overstepped, but and then she ended up messaging me, and now we're really good. But there was a hard conversation there. So like, friendship doesn't always have to be hard conversations. It can be a lot of fun too. And intentional things take intention. Beautiful things take time, right? And they take love. And when we show up, and when we show up vulnerable and willing to have the conversations and willing to show our hearts, that puts more skin in the game too for them as well to see you. Yes, it's more risky. And that's kind of what friendship's about, is about kind of weaving together and living a life in tandem, even from miles apart, right? Even virtual friends. So I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. I look forward to seeing your comments and like what stuck out to you. Post it below. I'd love to hear. And I just remember that you're worthy of goodness, right? So sing yourself a song and have a marvelous day. Love you guys.